Once upon a time, there lived a man and a woman who for many years had been wishing for a child, but to no avail. One day the woman began to feel that God was going to grant their wish. In the back of the house where they lived, there was a little window that looked out onto a splendid garden full of beautiful flowers and vegetables. A high wall surrounded the garden, and no one dared enter it, because it belonged to a powerful enchantress who was feared by everyone around. One day the woman was looking out her window into the garden. Her eye lit on a patch in particular, which was planted with the finest Rapunzel, a kind of lettuce. It looked so fresh and green that she was seized with a craving for it, and just had to get some for her next meal. From day to day her appetite grew, and she began to waste away because she was afraid she would never get any of it. When her husband saw how pale and wretched she had become, he asked, "What is the matter, dear wife?" "If I don't get any of that Rapunzel from the garden behind our house, I'm going to die," she replied. Her husband loved her dearly and thought, "Rather than let my wife perish, I'll go get some of that Rapunzel, no matter what the price." As night was falling, he climbed over the wall and into the garden of the enchantress, hastily pulled up a handful of Rapunzel, and brought it back to his wife. She made a salad out of it right away and devoured it with a ravenous appetite. The Rapunzel tasted so good, so very good, that the next day her craving for it increased threefold. The only way the man could settle his wife down was to go back to the garden for more. As night was falling he returned, but after he climbed over the wall he had an awful fright. For there was the enchantress, standing right in front of him. "How dare you sneak into my garden and take my Rapunzel like a common thief," she said, with an angry look. "This is going to turn out badly for you." "Oh, please," he replied, "show me some mercy for my deed, for I did it only because I had to. My wife got a look at your Rapunzel from our window. Her craving for it was so great that she said she would die if I did not get it for her." The enchantress relented in her anger and said to the man, "If what you say is true, then I'm going to let you take as much Rapunzel as you want back with you, but on one condition. You must hand over the child after your wife gives birth. I will take care of it like a mother, and it will not want for anything." In his fright the man agreed to everything. When it came time for the delivery, the enchantress appeared right away, gave the child the name Rapunzel, and whisked her away. Rapunzel was the most beautiful child on earth. When she was 12 years old, the enchantress took her into the forest and locked her up in a tower that had neither stairs nor a door. At the very top of the tower was a tiny little window. Whenever the enchantress wanted to get in, she stood at the foot of the tower and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair down." Rapunzel had long hair, as fine and beautiful as spun gold. Whenever she heard the voice of the enchantress, she would undo her braids, fasten them to a window latch, and let them fall 20 ells down, right to the ground. The enchantress would then climb up on them to get inside. A few years later it so happened that the son of a king was riding through the forest. He passed right by the tower, and heard a voice so lovely that he stopped to listen. It was Rapunzel, who all alone in the tower was passing the time of day by singing sweet melodies to herself. The prince was hoping to go up to see her, and he searched around for a door to the tower, yet there was none. He rode home, but Rapunzel's voice had stirred his heart so powerfully that he went out into the forest every day to listen to her. Once when he was hiding behind a tree, he saw the enchantress come to the tower and heard her call up, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair down." Rapunzel let down her braids, and the enchantress climbed up to her. "If that is the ladder by which you climb up to the top of the tower, then I'd like to try my luck at it too." And the next day, when it just started to get dark, the prince went up to the tower and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair down." The braids fell right down, and the prince climbed up on them. At first Rapunzel was terrified when she saw a man coming in through the window, especially since she had never seen one before. But the prince started talking with her in a kind way and told her that he had been so moved by her voice that he could not rest until he had set eyes on her. Soon Rapunzel was no longer afraid. And when the prince, who was young and handsome, asked her if she wanted to marry him, she thought to herself, "He will be more loving than old Mother Gothel." And so she said yes, put her hand in his and said, "I want to get away from here with you, but I can't figure out how to get out of this tower. Every time you come to visit, bring a skein of silk with you, and I will braid a ladder from the silk. When it's finished, I'll climb down, and you can take me with you on horseback." The two agreed that he would visit every evening, for the old woman was there in the daytime. The enchantress didn't notice a thing until one day Rapunzel said to her, "Tell me, Mother Gothel, why are you so much harder to pull up than the young prince? He gets up here in a twinkling." "Wicked child," shouted the enchantress, "what have you done? I thought I had shut you off from the rest of the world, but you betrayed me." Flying into a rage, she seized Rapunzel's beautiful hair, wound the braids around her left hand, and grabbed a pair of scissors with her right. Snip snap went the scissors, and the beautiful tresses fell to the ground. The enchantress was so hard-hearted that she banished poor Rapunzel to a wilderness where she had to live in a miserable and wretched state. On the very day when she had sent Rapunzel away, the enchantress fastened the severed braids to the window latch, and when the prince came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair down," she let down the hair. The prince climbed up, but instead of finding his precious Rapunzel, the enchantress was waiting for him with an angry, poisonous look in her eye. "Ha!" she shouted triumphantly. "You want to come get my darling little wife, but the beautiful bird is no longer sitting in the nest, singing her songs. The cat caught her, and before she's done, she's going to scratch out your eyes too. Rapunzel is lost to you forever. You will never see her again." The prince was beside himself with grief, and in his despair he jumped from the top of the tower. He was still alive, but his eyes were scratched out by the bramble patch into which he had fallen. He wandered around in the forest, unable to see anything. Roots and berries were the only thing he could find to eat, and he spent his time weeping and wailing over the loss of his dear wife. The prince wandered around in misery for many years, and finally reached the wilderness where Rapunzel was barely managing to survive, with the twins, a boy and a girl, to whom she had given birth. The prince heard a voice that sounded familiar to him, so he followed it. When he came to the sight of the person singing, Rapunzel recognized him. She threw her arms around him and wept. Two of those tears dropped into the prince's eyes, and suddenly he could see as before with clear eyes. The prince went back to his kingdom with Rapunzel, and there was a great rejoicing. They lived in happiness and good cheer for many years.